Welcome to the deep end at its finest, discussing life's hardships and admiring the resilience through those. We have special guests today, Gary Honig, and he's an American soldier, a previous American soldier who served in the Gulf War and has or had PTSD. And along the way, we want to hear about your journey, and we want to also hear about navigating through having a beautiful child, Nate, who has Down syndrome, and all the worries and speculations and all the things that you kind of go through as a parent, especially a father. Can you tell us a little bit about your intro to your life? And
Sure, Andrea. So as you said, my name's Gary. I live up in Lansdale. I've been in Pennsylvania since 2010. I've been married since 2003 to my wife, Michelle. Nate's our oldest child. He just turned 18 this previous December. And then we have two daughters. Our first daughter's Maeve. She's 16, learning to drive. And then my baby girl is Jane, and she's 13.
oh, beautiful names.
Thanks.
Yeah.
My wife picked them up. Everyone notices it's a hard A on every one of their names. I don't know why we did it that way. It just kind of happened.
You're right, it is. That's awesome. Well, you can kind of just say A, and then maybe the won't come, right?
Yes, indeed.
So you started serving at the age of 19 before you met your family, before you met your wife, and before you had your children.
Yeah.
Can you navigate us down a path of heading into the Army and also your relationship with PTSD prior to having it,
Sure.
and possibly knowing that you might have it after returning?
Okay, absolutely. So we have to go back in time to the 70s when I was just a little one. Vietnam had just ended, and one day there was a knock at the door. I was away at school, and my mom answered the door, and there was an Army recruiter at the door. And
Oh, wow, cold calling.
Well, as it turns out, not so quite cold. And they said, is Gary here? And she's like, well, no, he's at school. And
Was this college or high school?
this is kindergarten.
Oh,
This was kindergarten.
interesting. Okay.
Yes. So back in the day, the TV guide, that's how you knew what was on TV that week, right? You got the TV guide when you're in food shopping, and there was these tear-out sheets, these business reply cards. And every time I would see it, I'd tear it out, and I'd fill out my name and my information. I'd send it in, and they'd send it to the local recruiter, and the local recruiter would show up at my house and try and talk to me about enlisting. They didn't know that I wasn't 17. I was 7. And so, of course, Vietnam had just ended. My mom was terrified about the military. So I actually have a letter at home where, they say, thank you for your interest in the military, but since you're 9, you won't be eligible for quite some time. I tell you that because I'm one of those lucky people that knew from the very beginning what I wanted to do.
And what was that?
Be in the military.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay. I thought you might say that, but I just wanted to
No, that's all I wanted to do. And so school was just a distraction until I could get to the military. And so when I finally turned my senior year, I was 17. I found out that if you get your parents' permission, you're able to enlist.
Wow.
And so I had to convince my parents that it was a good idea. And the recruiter showed up, and he's having coffee around the kitchen table with my parents. And my parents were concerned. They'd heard stories from their friends about boot camp during Vietnam. And they
Naturally.
said, we don't want that for
They're
you.
their baby.
Yep. And so the recruiter talked them through and their worries and stuff like that. And, my mom looked at me and she's like, I just don't understand why you want this. You're smart. You could do, anything you want to do. I said, well, I am smart, and this is what I want to do. And
That's
I said,
right.
and I told her, I said, Ma, come on. It's not like there's going to be a war. And she's like, yeah, that's a good point. And so, I enlisted when I was 17. I left 12 days after I graduated high school, and I was in for a year. And Iraq invaded Kuwait. They sent me to war. So much for that promise to my mom.
Well, who would have known?
Yeah,
honestly.
exactly.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. So you were recruited at kindergarten.
Yeah, started in kindergarten.
Yes, and then they made you wait, but you went a little early.
Yes.
And so, where was your father in all of this?
He was supportive. He was a Navy vet, so he knew that this is pretty much where I was going to go. I wasn't a great student. I did not want to do anything except be in the military. I was singularly focused on that.
Yeah. Side note: you're a business owner now.
Yes, I am. Yes.
So are you thriving with that? How's that going? How many years has that been?
Oh, I've been self-employed now since 2000. 18, I guess, building my financial advisory practice. Yeah.
So 7 years. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
fabulous.
Yeah.
Okay. So you made it even if you didn't have great grades in school and all that jazz that
It's
everybody.
never too late to make your own path in life, without a doubt.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
So, I want to tell you this detail of training because it really plays into, later on in my life. So when you go through boot camp, it's all about breaking down the individual and building you up as a member of a team and giving you confidence and discipline and all that stuff. And there's a couple days where you go through, a confidence course. And one of the things that I struggle with to this day is heights. I hate heights. I've done everything I can to get over it. I rock climb, I've skydived, I've done everything. I can't get over it. Just nothing natural to me about being
Stinkers just sticking on there. I share your same
Okay.
fear.
So you know what it's like.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes, I do.
So there's this one obstacle that you have to climb, and there's a very specific way you have to climb it, right? It's 5 or 6 platforms that are perfectly on top of each other. And, to get up, it's fairly easy. You just do a chin up and pull your legs over and climb the tower that way. Well, when you get to the top, the only way down is to then put your hands on like a bar at the outside, and you do like a somersault out into space, and you come down into the reverse of a pull-up position. And you just go up and down that way. And as long as you do it the correct way, you're fine. Well, I did not want to do that, Andrea.
You didn't want to do it, period.
I didn't want to do it, period.
No.
But there's something about the military. They don't let you get away without doing something. So, I very clearly remember being at the top of that tower. And one of my drill sergeants, he's got the best name for being a drill sergeant. His name was Mondragon. And he was the meanest guy you ever know. I'm actually friends with him today. We hooked up on social media. He's a great guy. He remembers this story and he laughs about it. But I did not want to get off that tower. And he threatened me. He's like, look, either you get off the tower on your own or I'm going to throw you off. And I said, would you throw me off? He goes, absolutely.
That'll do it. That will do it. Yes, indeed. Oh, my goodness.
So, you're up there, you're scared to death, and, you're praying, oh, please, don't let me fall, all that stuff. So I was able to get down and, did fine after that. And that was training. And I was stationed in Germany, got sent to Iraq. And, the Iraq War was the Iraq War. And came back May of, I guess that's 91. Wow, that's a long time ago. May of 1991.
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
A little bit of hike back there, yeah.
Yeah. So, so I came home and I was able to, one of the things that being in Iraq taught me is that I'd rather be in business in America than be in a war zone. And I said, okay, well, I've done my time with the military and now it's safe to get out. So that's what I did.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Was there a pivotal point where you knew what your PTSD was from, or where you came home and got, like, at what point were you like, oh my goodness, I think I might have PTSD, or were you diagnosed, or how did that go?
Yeah. So unfortunately, it was a long struggle with what I called at the time severe anxiety, right? I mean, you would just, all the symptoms that you hear about, everyone knows them, that shortness of breath, the tunnel vision, the sweating, the feeling of hopelessness at times. It was those. I didn't know what it was, right? Before GWAT, the Global War on Terror, after 9/11, we didn't really talk about that type of stuff. And so I didn't know what it was. I just figured this is who I am, and I didn't understand why I was like that, but it was a struggle.
But did you have the anxieties and all of those symptoms prior to going
Absolutely
to
not.
war? Okay.
Absolutely
So
not.
it was brand new to you. And
Yeah.
you were kind of becoming an adult at the same time. So maybe you didn't even realize that, hey, this might be from...
It's one of those
over-
things you don't think about, why is this happening? You just realize, well, why can't I be the way I was before? And, you just don't... I didn't spend much time on it. I just said, okay, this is how I am. And, you struggle with it at times.
Yeah. Was there anything in particular, and you can share it with us if you want, or you don't have to, that gave you those anxieties?
Oh yeah, I mean it's not a fun story, and I also want to add, like, my journey is nowhere near as traumatic as what some other veterans have had to deal with, and I don't pretend to, say that I have it just as bad as some of those guys. And that's the thing about
still-
PTSD, though, Andrea, is it's very, very personalized, and
Yes.
what bothers some people doesn't bother other people. For instance,
Right.
in a war, you see plenty of death, and I didn't bother me at all. This was our job. this is what it was. I didn't have anything against, the people there, but it is what it is. So that didn't bother me. The what bothered me was the innocence that were hurt. Specifically, there was this little girl. We after the war had ended, we were just manning positions and getting ready to go back, and doing what you do after a war to clean up. And this father brought in his daughter, who had been horribly wounded by an unexploded munition. The military uses this thing called improved conventional munitions, which is, imagine like a big bomb, and then when it gets about 30 feet off the ground, it explodes and drops out like a couple hundred small bombs. And it's very, very effective on certain types of enemy troops. Well, the problem is they don't always explode. And to some of the Iraqi children, they look
I know
like
where
balls.
you're going with this.
Yeah. So we don't have to paint too detailed of a picture.
Yeah.
But dealing with that, and you put it away, and that's the thing about trauma is it likes to come out of its hiding place when you're not ready to deal with it.
Yeah. And it's so real. And then you're right. It's very personalized to each person. That's hardcore facts, and it could be something even smaller than what you had gone through. And
Absolutely.
still have PTSD.
Absolutely.
And it's very real and it's very serious and it needs to be, treated. So my next question is, how did you navigate through those experiences and feelings and anxieties, and where do you stand with it today?
So,
and how long did it take?
Oh, it took a long time.
Throw that answer in there
It took
too.
a long time. So, I'm 19 or 20, I guess, somewhere that age group when I get out, and I go to college and I get a job and doing all the things that a 20-year-old does. Mm-hmm. And looking back, I saw what it was. Right, there was really strong emotions, losing my temper really, really quickly. Having panic attacks like for no reason. I couldn't put my finger on what it was, but I didn't really deal with it. And that's the problem, right? Is you let this take over your life, and it affects different people in different ways. For me, it was a lot of drinking, not exercising. There were some problems with job losses because you can't lose your temper at work, right?
That's right.
So
most days anyway.
Yeah. So, but we didn't really talk about it. I didn't deal with it or anything like that. And then I met my wife. I had met her at a wedding. She lived in Chicago. I was living in Boston at the time. And I was working for Delta Airlines, and I was able to fly back and forth. And we had a courtship that way. And, we got married after about a year of knowing each other. And so I'm sorry I'm kind of switching gears here on the topics, but
this is great.
It kind of plays into it.
I love to know when your family comes into play after all of this.
So, we got married. We were both 30. We met at 30. By the time we got married, we were like 32, 33. And we struggled to conceive, right? Happens to a lot of couples. We finally did conceive, Nate, and everything was great. I was like, this is good. Still had the symptoms, but you just kind of dealt with it, right?
You have a great distraction too. You're bringing a life in that you're going to love and be loved back, and you're with the love of your life.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We were newlyweds.
There's some great distractions.
Crazy about it.
Yeah.
And I was driving to work one day, and the phone rings. It was my wife, and she's so upset. She's absolutely hysterical. At this point, she's probably about four months pregnant, 4 months gestation. And I said, "Baby, what's going on?" And she can't even get it out. She is just so upset, and I'm letting her kind of get through it. And as I'm sure you know, around 4 months they give you all these tests, right? And there's this one called a titers test, and it measures the likelihood of having a child with Down syndrome. And hers was like off the charts. And I said, "Baby, it's just one of those tests. They're designed to scare. Everything's going to be fine." She goes, "No, you don't understand. It's incredibly high." And I was like, "Okay." And then your world just ends, right? Yeah. Your world just ends. And so I said, "Well, what do we do?" And so we met with Doc. And he says, "Based on these numbers, there's a 68% likelihood that your son will be born with Down syndrome." I was like, "Well, what is Down syndrome?" And they explained it to me, and I was like, "Okay." And Michelle's like, "I got to know for sure. I can't do the rest of this pregnancy without knowing for sure." I said, "Okay." And so we went and we got the amniocentesis, and they were able to confirm it. And ending the pregnancy was never even a possibility for us. And so we said, "Okay, well, this is our reality now."
Now we know.
Yeah.
And you're moving forward.
Yeah.
And what was your relationship with Down syndrome at that point? How much did you know about it? Did you have any worries? Were you
I wasn't
nothing?
worried about it. It didn't even enter my consciousness. I mean, I think the only thing I probably knew was that TV show Life Goes On with that.
Yes, Corky.
You remember
Yeah,
Corky? Yeah,
I do.
But that was it. I mean, it really didn't play into it. But I had no idea how to navigate this.
And there's so many different kinds too. I mean, there's with Down syndrome. I mean, you can be high functioning, you can be
Absolutely.
less. So you kind of didn't know what cards you were going to be dealt with that either.
That's an excellent point. You don't know what you're going to get out of it. You just they have done studies, and psychologically speaking, all right, to the parent of the unborn child with Down syndrome, the emotions are the same as if the child had died. That's how significant of a trauma it is. And we wrestled with all that. Everything we thought our son was going, or we didn't know at the time. Well, we knew after the amniocentesis. So everything we thought our son was going to be was like, oh, well, what's he going to be capable of doing? Is he going to be institutionalized? Will he ever walk?
Right.
All that stuff. And
Yeah.
so it was just a lot of fear of the unknown. And it was, so you talk about PTSD resurfacing and anxiety.
Yes.
And immediately I was back to that, lack of control, that little girl being hurt in the desert immediately. And, I've never really had like flashbacks or nightmares or anything like that until that moment with Nate. And, your brain has a very interesting way of dealing with trauma. And whether you want to deal with it or not, sometimes your brain is like, all right, guess what you're doing today?
Yes.
And you're going to deal with it. And I remember very vividly a Saturday morning, my wife was still in bed. We had found out like 2 or 3 weeks earlier. And I was flipping through stations, drinking coffee, and I was watching a documentary on, of all things, Army Boot Camp. And I was like, oh, this is great. Let's relive.
How precise.
Yeah.
Yes.
And these soldiers were going through the confidence course. And I mentioned earlier about
Oh yeah.
that fear of heights and all that stuff. And, I remember very distinctly sitting on that couch. Now, I wasn't going to church. I grew up in the church, but I had no relationship with God at all. And I remember, and I'm going to get a little emotional here, so you have to bear with
Do
me.
it.
But I remember sitting on the couch watching these people, and I heard this voice say to me, he's like, Gary, I was with you on that tower. I was with you in Iraq. And I'm going to be with you through this. And you are going to be okay. And your son's going to be okay. And, I was like, whoa, what was that? And I just had this immense feeling of peace
Yes.
come over me. And,
I felt that when you said it.
yeah.
I completely believe it, and I'm so glad that you heard that because it's such an important piece of the story.
Oh,
Where you
massive.
not only hear it, but you probably felt it through your body, and like you said, felt peace.
Peace.
Because people can say stuff all they want, they're words, but when you hear it like that and you feel it through your body,
Yeah.
you it's believable. Like, okay, I know that that's the truth.
Yep.
And we're only here with our earth bodies for so long,
Right.
and it's our journeys that really matter, and it's our experiences and our trials and tribulations and our lessons, and our lessons all while loving throughout, which is kind of difficult. I mean, you're doing all these things, good, bad, and different, and then things are being popped back to you,
Yeah.
and to love everything through that experience,
Yeah.
even when you don't want to,
Yeah.
at your worst moments.
Yeah.
And so I felt like you kind of got a little piece of love.
Yeah.
Said, hey,
Oh, without a doubt. It was
here-
it was
I'm
such
here with
immense
you.
love. Yeah.
Yeah.
And my wife came down a little bit later, and it's flipped at that point. We
Yeah.
were no longer sad. We were no longer depressed. I said, babe, we've got this. And, just because now the path that you're on and you're confident doesn't mean the bad news stops, right?
That's right.
Because,
Let's not forget about that part.
a couple months later, during an ultrasound, we found out he had to have heart surgery as soon as he was born. And so, tough guy, man. He was born, and 3 months later, he had to have open heart surgery. They took his heart out and repaired the defect and put it back in, and that
He had
was the
open
story.
chest surgery.
Oh, they
didn't
took it
just go
out.
in-
Yeah, they took it out.
Which is a big deal. It's a little bit different than just going in with stents. And
Shout out to Dr. Baca up at Children's Hospital in
Well,
Boston.
shout out to Dr. Baca.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, that started kind of the healing
Yeah.
for us.
Fabulous.
Yeah.
I love that journey, especially the last piece. I know that the trials and tribulations continue. And what kind of worries do you have? How old is Nate now?
Nate's 18.
18. So
Yeah,
he's an adult
18.
technically.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So that's kind of the second chapter. I mean, when he's not an adult, he's under your care, and now he's an adult. What happens now, especially for fathers out there that have kids
Yeah.
with
Well,
Down syndrome?
it's funny when moms are very good about talking about their feelings with other moms, and they'll seek out a community and they'll do it. That's not what guys do, right? We retreat in, and if you're not lucky enough to have faith or a network, it's scary.
Tough and alone. Sure.
Yeah. So, I've talked to a couple dads and encouraged them. And what I can tell dads if they're wrestling with this is it's going to be okay, right? It is going to be okay. My wife, when Nate started school, she really wanted him to be fully integrated to the best of his ability. And one of the things that we did up at the school district is her Nate's, I guess it was first or second grade teacher, invited Michelle in to answer questions when Nate was not in the room of all the other kids. Like, hey, do you have questions about Down syndrome, stuff like that? And Michelle she was freaking out. Like, why is he so weird? Or why does he do this? And all that stuff. And, kids they're so awesome. Kid raises his hand. Yeah, what's your question? What's Nate's favorite food? Does does Nate get in trouble at home sometimes? It's just the easiest kid questions. And, they didn't see Nate as different. His parents saw him as different. We were so
Yes.
worried about
It's
it.
so true.
But-
I mean, to the core.
Yeah.
Like kids, when they're younger, they don't have that environmental judgment yet. What is his favorite food, by the way?
Meatballs.
Meatballs.
Meatballs. He loves meatball subs. You get a Wawa meatball sub for him, and he is happy as a clam.
That's awesome.
And he can eat too. So, so it's going to be okay, right? That's optimism is such a huge, huge part of our lives, and if you're optimistic, right, and there's tools to build optimism, right? There's tools to do that, but if you don't have optimism, man, life is tough. Life is tough.
Yeah.
You
need
have
to put
to know it's gonna
yourself
be okay.
in that mindset.
Yeah.
That incredibly positive mindset, and just take everything as it is, because life is not always positive, as we know. And when you are stuck in a really difficult situation, which it sounds like you had, two entities that came together and struck you really
Yeah.
hard. And then it was like all of a sudden okay, and you probably couldn't see the light at that point.
Right. No, I couldn't. There's a famous letter that parents who are going to have, who find out about Down syndrome, my wife and I joke about it. It's called Welcome to Holland letter. And it's this letter written to a couple, say, hey, congratulations on your trip to Italy. You've planned to save for this, right? And the plane lands, you wake up in Holland, and you're like, well, I want to go to Italy, right? Well, that's the story of Down syndrome too, right? You wanted a kid that was typical. You wanted a kid that was what you perceived him or her to be. Instead, you got this. But it doesn't mean it's not just an amazing journey, and that child of yours is not just this wonderful, unique human being. Because it is. And, one of the best things about being a dad to Nate is he's taught me, and my wife, but we're talking about me today, he's taught me so much about fatherhood. Stuff that my daughters, who are awesome in their own regard, could never have taught me. And it's
Amazing.
it is amazing. It is amazing. There's a book by Tim Keller called, How to Pray, or Why Do We Pray, or something like that. The premise behind the book is like, why bother praying to a God who already knows everything, right? He's already made his decision. So why bother praying? And what you learn from reading the book is it's when you're praying that you're most intimate with God, and that's when he changes your heart. It's the same thing with being a dad, especially a dad to a kid with Down syndrome. Yeah, it takes him longer to learn how to walk.
Hear that journey.
It takes him longer to be potty trained. He's never going to be a physicist. He's never probably going to drive a car. You know what? But he knows how to shoot baskets,
Yes.
and he's a great dancer. He thinks he can rap, although it's really not that good.
That's great.
But it's the things you learn about being a dad when you parent a kid with Down syndrome. It just makes you a better dad.
Yeah.
It makes you a better person because you learn patience, and you learn that it's your kid's journey. It's not your journey.
Yeah,
Not to put
exactly.
unfair expectations on them. So it's been
How
awesome.
are your daughters with Nate? What's that relationship like? And they're younger. How much younger are they?
So Maeve's 16 and Jane's 13. So they're all teenagers.
It's a great household right there.
Yeah,
A lot of fun
awesome.
right now, especially
Awesome.
with
A lot of
girls.
yelling. A lot of yelling. It's funny. We were sensitive to that with Maeve because they're so close in age, and Maeve would get mad. This is when they're younger, like 5, 6 years old. Maeve would get mad at her brother. I hate him. He's so weird, stuff like that. And at first we thought, well, he doesn't like it because he has Down syndrome. No, she's mad at him because he's a brother, right?
Yes.
And so you just say, yeah, Maeve, brothers stink. They're annoying. They smell bad. They go in your stuff. Welcome to life. That's brotherhood. And I don't think she's ever thought really about it. It's just this is who Nate is, and they've have their struggles like any brother and sister.
Mm-hmm.
Now at this age, Nate just says, "I'm out of here," goes, closes the door, ignores his
That's the
sisters.
age,
That's
yes.
the age. That's what they do.
We'll have to
typical.
circle back in like 10 years. I bet they're gonna be
Yeah.
super
Oh, they are
close.
super close. Yeah, they are super close.
It's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
Wow, I love that.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that you want to talk about? Any advice to people who, from your standpoint, with PTSD or having a Down syndrome child or with special needs?
Yeah.
To anybody. I mean, just there's so many people out there. There's people that don't even resonate with this story, and they're having a struggling period in their time, and they can't get through it.
Yeah.
Is there anything that you might say?
So yeah, I would. Well, building on that optimism, I would also encourage them to seek help. Right, if they are a veteran, the VA, it does amazing work with counseling, and I've made so much progress. Through my faith journey, being getting back with God, but also through Christina down in Coatesville, my therapist. I mean, has just done amazing work helping me to process this stuff. And when you have a professional there to help you process things, it makes it so much easier. And always being optimistic. And if you're a dad or a mom, and you've got a diagnosis, don't do it by yourself, because you get by yourself in that room, and the doom starts to win, and the pessimism starts to win, and you got to pull out of that. And you have to be optimistic. And your child that you have, it's his or her journey. It's not yours, and you have to reset your expectations.
Yeah.
And your job as a parent is to steward them, to make them be the life they want. Because I can guarantee you, my parents didn't want me to go to Iraq, right? But it was my journey to walk.
Yes.
And that's, I think, what I would encourage dads, especially dads. Moms are good at this. Dads struggle. Find a community. A lot of the communities with Down syndrome, kids with Down syndrome, they have parents groups. Get involved with that, because it's a great journey. It's just as awesome as having a typical kid, and we're out here to help. We want to help you. We want to talk to you.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's time for the question of the day.
Ooh,
If you
okay.
didn't mind, have it right here.
Give it to me.
Okay. We have. This is a good one. What skill would you love to develop this year?
Okay. Well, assuming I'm capable of it, I love to sing, but I can't sing.
Okay.
So I would love to be able to develop a skill where I could just carry a tune. I don't need to be on American Idol. I just want to sing and not have people or ears hurt.
That's awesome. What does that look like? Does that look like in-person music lessons or online or just keep on trying?
I would love
or-
to hire a vocal coach and just to be able to do karaoke with my
Yes.
friends. 'Cause,
That's awesome.
yeah, I'd love to sing. I just cannot do it very well.
Wow. Well, if by the end of the year you're out karaokeing with your friends and you get up, I need to see a video. of
Okay.
that.
Make sure I do it, Andrea.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I can't carry a tune either, and it's so bad that I'm not even going to try.
Okay.
So kudos to you. That's
Thanks.
awesome.
Thanks.
Well, we have Gary Honig, and we're so thankful. A tremendous thank you for your service and for sharing your story today.